This brings up another thing that always frustrates me when people are like, oh, well, his appeals were denied, so he must be guilty. Most people don't realize that pretty much everybody, not everybody, but most people that are exonerated, all of their appeals are exhausted before they even get to the point where they have to go prove their innocence.
There's an epidemic in America's criminal justice system. The prosecution and conviction of innocent people for crimes they did not commit. Welcome to the American Justice Podcast. Your hosts, Scott Pogensey and C. Derick Miller, come together to bring you the inside scoop on all of the wrongful conviction stories, both new and old. It's not only about the innocent who have been in prison, but also the victims of crimes as well. No one deserves justice more than them. And now, here are your hosts, Scott Pogensey and C. Derick Miller.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the American Justice Podcast,
where we talk shit.
And we talk crime, but we don't talk shitty crime. All right. Hey, C. Derick, good morning. How are you?
Oh, man, okay, this is a little crazy here. I'm in pursuit of something. I've had a lot of time, especially since I've become a full-time writer. I've had a little time to kind of look inward on myself and just try and figure out some of my quirks. Try to find out why I am the way I am. So I started to do a lot of research into autism. And I hit on like 13 of the 15 identifiers this one guy was talking about in one of the videos that I recently watched. So I think there's a possibility. Well, take a step back. I actually brought this up to my wife, and she said, man, I've really been wanting to talk to you about this for like 3 years. I just didn't want to upset you. I didn't want you to be mad, because a lot of people would get mad if you asked them about this. She was curious if I potentially had a hint of autism
on the spectrum.
Yeah, on the spectrum. So I'm actually pursuing a diagnosis now. I am gonna throw myself at the mercy of the professionals and see what they say. And I guess it is what it is. It's not. I'm 48 years old, and people are like, why now? Why would you want this diagnosis now? I'm like, I'm not after any money. I'm not out after any sympathy. I don't want a better parking spot. I don't want, anything like that. I want to know. I want to know if somehow I managed to slip through 12 years of school, 4 years of military, 11 years of law enforcement, basically 48 years of life, right, without anyone really picking up on it. Of course, over the years, I've developed a lot of, what's the word I'm searching for here? I'm not even sure.
Quirks?
Well, no, but just what ways of dealing with it.
Oh, okay. Like coping mechanisms.
Yeah, coping mechanisms. There we go. I've been saying it now for days, but for some reason just then it completely slipped my mind. I've developed a ton of coping mechanisms to be who I am and do the things that I've done.
Right.
But I'm just curious. So we've started traveling down those tracks. The train is rolling, baby. We're gonna see.
Yeah. Well, you'll have to keep us updated.
Yeah, I will.
Awesome. Well, should we get into this week's case?
Let's do it.
All right. We got Steven Avery. A lot of you will know this guy from Making a Murderer.
I never saw that show.
Now, you might be wondering, and some people might be wondering, why we're focusing or why we're doing an episode on Steven Avery when it has not been conclusively proven that he is innocent yet. In fact, we kind of covered that when we did the Julius Jones case. There was a lot of people that thought that he was innocent, but there's also a lot of people that thought that he was guilty. So today's episode is going to be the same thing. We're going to be talking about Steven Avery. He has not been exonerated. He is still in prison. So it has not been conclusively proven that he is innocent, but
he was exonerated once before.
Yes, but that was of a different crime than what he's in prison for now.
Yeah.
And we'll talk about that. But so just know up front that he is still in prison, and that not every case we do here at the American Justice Podcast is going to be about somebody that has been exonerated. But we do focus on cases where there's at least a large contingent of people that believe that the person is innocent. All right, well, let's get to the whole story. Steven Allen Avery is a convicted murderer from Manitowoc County, Wisconsin, who was wrongfully convicted of a sexual assault and attempted murder in 1985. He served 18 years of a 32-year sentence, but was exonerated by DNA testing. He was released in 2003, but charged with murder just 2 years later. Why'd you bite me? Well, I'm a snake.
Yeah. Call it what it is, man. This guy is, spent 18 years in prison for something he didn't do,
right,
only to be picked up 2 years later for something worse.
Right, exactly. Well, his exoneration brought the Wisconsin criminal justice system into the light regarding wrongful convictions. Avery filed a $36 million lawsuit against the county, the former sheriff, and the former DA for wrongful conviction and imprisonment, but murdered photographer Teresa Halbach in 2005 while the suit was still pending. He was convicted to life in prison without the possibility of parole. The 2007 murder trial is the focus of Netflix's Making a Murderer documentary series.
Yeah, again, this is something I have still not seen. I know it was really popular there for a long time. I used to work in an office full of people who loved this kind of stuff.
Right.
They loved watching this kind of stuff, but I couldn't get those people to listen to the American Justice podcast for the life of me. This is all they talked about forever, though, was this Steven Avery case, this Making a Murderer docuseries on Netflix. And like I said in earlier episodes, or at least I think I did, I got rid of Netflix a long time ago. So I've never seen it.
Right. Well, it was definitely all the rage for a while. But, I think that maybe now some of those people will listen to the American Justice podcast.
Maybe.
Because we're covering Steven Avery.
Maybe. I hope what if he made any money off of that whatsoever, I hope he bought some ramen noodles on commissary.
There you go. All right. Steven Avery was born in 1962 in Manitowoc County, Wisconsin. His family operated a salvage yard in the middle of nowhere, Wisconsin, on their 40 acres on the outskirts of town.
How many teeth did they own, though? Like combined, the family?
Probably 3.
3.
Yeah.
Mouth probably looked like a jack-o'-lantern.
His mother claimed that he attended a school for, quote, slower kids.
What a shithead of a mother.
Right. Yeah.
Well, little Stevie is kind of slow.
Yeah, thanks, Mom.
You don't use big words and don't make sudden movements around him.
Right. Needless to say, he wasn't the brightest bulb on the Christmas tree.
No, sir.
He went on to marry single mother Lori Matheson, and they had 4 children together. 4 children? Seems like he was good at something.
Yeah, I mean, the guy can't walk 5 steps with committing a crime, but he can knock a chick up 4 times.
Pop those kids out quick.
It's not that hard. I mean, it's I mean,
Ba-dum-bum.
Yeah, yes, no pun intended. No, seriously, I guess it's not that hard to get somebody pregnant.
Wouldn't know.
I mean, I had 4 kids, so obviously not.
I wouldn't know that part of life.
Well, I lived it for you. I doubled up just for you, man. Up. When people are like, "My God, why did you have so many children?" I was doing it for Scott.
That's right. All right. Avery's troubles with the law started at the beginning of his adult life. In 1981, at age 18, he burglarized a bar with one of his friends. He served 10 months and was ordered to pay restitution.
Okay, 1981. Age 18. First thing out the gate. He probably had his diploma tucked into his back pocket from that school for slower kids.
Right.
Had it tucked into his back pocket as he's like taking money out of the cash register at a bar.
Right.
Like, okay, from the get-go, this guy's doomed.
Yeah, he's on the wrong path here. Shortly after that, he was found guilty of animal cruelty. A couple of guys stated that Avery covered a cat with gas and threw it in a bonfire. Avery claimed that he was young, stupid, and hanging out with the wrong people. Did he not claim that he was slow?
No, that was his mother.
Oh, that's right. I guess this is because most serial killers prefer to torture their practice animals solo. Just a random thought.
But on top of that, man, the guy's like, hey, I was young, I was stupid, and I was hanging out with the wrong people. Look, I was young and stupid and hanging out with the wrong people once as well. And not once did I ever throw a cat in a bonfire.
Right.
That's like premeditated animal cruelty. You covered a cat in gasoline and threw it in a bonfire. And I've met a lot of asshole cats in my life, too. I've met a lot of asshole cats that I've wanted to kick the living hell out of them, but I didn't because it's cruelty to animals. But I sure as hell never wanted to pick up a little kitty, cover it in fuel, and throw it into a bonfire. I mean, you're a sick son of a bitch, Steven Avery, and you can quote me on that. Like
Exactly.
you went from like burglarizing a bar to throwing a cat in a bonfire within 2 years. Of course, we're going to finger you as a murderer and a rapist.
Right. Exactly. Well, a couple of years after he was released from prison for that, he ran his cousin's car off the road and put a gun in her face. He was pissed off that she had been spreading rumors about him masturbating in the front lawn. I mean, what kind of, like, is this rumors or is this just telling what actually happened?
This is, oh my God. I mean, you had to be doing something sketchy in order to be accused, first of all.
Right. Yeah.
He did go to the school for slower kids, so, perhaps he was taking his time.
Yeah. Who that's slow masturbating. All right.
Yes.
He was sentenced to 6 more years in prison for endangering safety and possession of a firearm. Look, man, if you don't like your truth, change your truth.
Yeah.
This guy is a total wacko. But the reason I've even included him in the lineup of the American Justice podcast is this. In 1985, a woman by the name of Penny Bernstein was sexually assaulted while jogging around on Lake Michigan. Avery was chosen in both a photograph and live lineup, even though a time-stamped store receipt and 16 eyewitnesses proved he was 40 miles away. He was convicted of rape and attempted murder and sentenced to 32 years in prison. 2 appeals over the next decade were denied by higher courts.
No, man, that wasn't me. I was 40 miles away at the store buying like gasoline for my cat and Astroglide for when I was going to go hang out in my cousin's yard later.
Right. And this brings up another thing that always frustrates me when people are like, oh, well, his appeals were denied, so he must be guilty. Most people don't realize that pretty much everybody, not everybody, but most people that are exonerated, all of their appeals are exhausted before they even get to the point where they have to go prove their innocence.
Exactly. Case in point, Brandon Woodruff.
Right, exactly. And that's what it frustrates me when people say, oh, well, the courts have looked at this conviction and obviously he's guilty because all of the appeals have been denied. Well, number one, he's only had one appeal that was actually heard, and that was the direct appeal, which basically the people said, or the judges said, we have a lot of evidence, a lot of problems with this evidence, but that's not our job to look at the evidence. All they do is look at whether or not the judge made a bad decision. And if the judge doesn't make a bad decision, it doesn't mean that you're guilty. So anyways, that's my rant about that.
Your Stories on Video is the perfect service to preserve all of your memories for generations to come. If you've ever thought to yourself that it's time to get all of those precious memories down on video, now is the time. Here's a quick sample of one of our videos.
My name is Darrell Kaiser, and I was born in 1925 in Canby, Minnesota. The happiest day of my life. It has to be when I got married. Yeah, that would have to be my happiest day. I sat down in a chair that was several chairs, and there was women on the opposite side. And I ordered me a drink, and I looked down that way, and Betty was looking at me. So I winked at her. And the next thing I know, then I went and asked her for a dance, and we danced and several times, and then I asked to take her home. I can't say that I ever gets out of my mind at all.
Daryl hired Your Stories on Video because he wants his grandkids and their grandkids to hear from his own mouth and his own likeness what his life was like. He also shared the family ancestry as only he could. Going back and researching archives are one thing, but watching the person that lived it is so much better. The process to get a video is very simple. Just go to www.yourstoriesonvideo.com and request a consultation. Then one of our experienced story consultants will work with you from the beginning to the end to make sure your video is exactly what you want it to be. Many kinds of individuals and families utilize our service, from the older generation wanting to pass down their wisdom to those that have an unfortunate medical diagnosis. Contact Your Stories on Video today at yourstoriesonvideo.com. Mention the American Justice Podcast and receive a 25% discount.
A police detective contacted the Manitowoc County Jail in 1995, stating that an inmate had admitted to committing the assault years ago and that someone else was in jail for it. The sheriff's office responded with this exact phrase, quote, "We already have the right guy. Don't concern yourself with it," end quote. Professional laziness at its finest. Besides, as the American Justice Podcast has shown repeatedly, there's no point in going after the bad guy. Just pick a random person of interest and build your case around them. Thriller authors do this every day.
Yeah, I mean, and this is something I'm worried about when it comes to Brandon's case. Since we're talking about season 1 of the American Justice Podcast, and everybody knows that we're very closely involved in everything that's going on with Brandon Woodruff.
Right.
And one of the things that scares me the most about that is this quote right here is, "We already have the right guy. Don't concern yourself with it." Like, right. If they do go poking, when they do go poking around to the Hunt County Sheriff's Department, and it comes time to look for the right person who killed Dennis and Norma Woodruff, I would be worried that that's something that the Hunt County Sheriff's Office would say. "We already found our guy. Just don't worry yourself with it.
Don't concern yourself with it."
Yeah,
exactly.
None of your business.
Well, in 2002, the Wisconsin Innocence Project used DNA testing to exonerate him and proved the real perpetrator, Gregory Allen, was guilty of the crime. This was after Avery had already spent 18 years of his life behind bars. Personally, I don't feel too bad for him, because his story shows enough of a pattern to make me believe he would have found another way to screw up in those 18 years and probably would have been incarcerated anyways. I mean, the guy threw a cat in a bonfire. He was released in 2003, but his wife had left him and his family hated him. They were probably cat people.
Yeah, I mean, think of all the missed opportunities where he could have been masturbating in his cousin's yard. I mean, just
while the cat's on fire.
Well, there's a painting right there. I want that artwork framed and hanging on my wall. Steven Avery jerking off in his cousin's yard with a cat on fire next to him.
Now it's in all of our listeners' minds.
If there's anybody out there who listens to the American Justice Podcast who fancies himself an artist, I would love this fan artwork.
Please don't.
Please do.
Please don't.
I will pay you for the fan artwork of Steven Avery masturbating in his cousin's front yard with a cat on fire.
All right. So anyways, his wrongful conviction case put him in the spotlight. It sparked a bipartisan task force in Wisconsin to recommend improvement to the state's criminal justice system aimed at decreasing the likelihood of future wrongful convictions. Unfortunately, Vincent Kosies wasn't one of the individuals being considered.
Yeah, it's Wisconsin. What is it about Wisconsin?
That's right. We're still battling for you, Vincent. These ideas were drafted into legislation and became known as the Avery Bill. although the name was short-lived. Avery screwed up again, and they renamed it to the Criminal Justice Reform Bill a month later. This is the same reasoning behind never getting a lover's name tattooed on your body.
For real.
This newest murder indictment would cause his $36 million wrongful conviction suit to only pay out $400,000. Then again, when you're in prison for the rest of your life, $400,000 will take ramen noodles all the way to the casket.
Yeah, for real, man. That's a lot of.
You could even have an ice cream once a week.
That's a lot of bags of flaming hot Cheetos right there, baby.
That's right.
That's $400,000. My God. I mean, I wonder if does that go to his family? Does that get put on his books? What is?
Right.
Man, just
it's a good question.
This poor guy, and plus, I say this poor guy. To hell with this guy. Okay, to hell. This will be one of the only subjects of this podcast where I'm like, you know what? Screw that guy. Wrongfully convicted and then goes right out and does the real thing. But they name a bill after him for wrongfully confused people. And then they have to go and like change the name because he's already gone out and done something worse.
Well, we keep saying that he went out and killed somebody, but there's a lot of people that believe that he did not kill Miss Halbach. So
yeah, there's a lot of people that vote Republican.
All right. Well, speaking of his actual murder conviction, Avery got down to business again on Halloween night, 2005. Photographer Teresa Halbach disappeared with her last known appointment being with Avery at his family's auto salvage yard. Creepy. Avery's sister was getting rid of a minivan and Halbach was going to take a photo of it for the Auto Trader. Remember the Auto Trader?
Yeah. Or even remember hiring photographers?
Right.
Now everybody is a photographer. Every girl, every Karen with an iPhone.
That's right.
Is a photographer. All you have to have is an Instagram page, a website, and an iPhone. Congratulations. You can call yourself a photographer.
That's right. When the police found her vehicle in Avery's salvage yard, it had been partially concealed. The inside of the car was covered in her blood and bone fragments were discovered in a burn pit near Avery's home. Please, listeners of this podcast, do not feel sorry for this clown. Save your sympathies for our previous victims.
I firmly believe this time around that this guy's guiltier than sin. Right. This is my personal belief. I don't know how you feel on it.
I think you might want to watch Making a Murderer.
I would if I cared about Netflix. If there was another way I could watch it other than Netflix, I totally would. But this is all going down in 2005. Have we stopped to think how long it would have taken Charla Woodruff to drive from Arkansas to Manitowoc County, Wisconsin? Did I catch you off guard there, Scott?
I mean, drive, fly.
Have we received any more cease and desist letters from the beautiful
Charla Woodruff? We have not. Woodruff. We've only gotten the one, and then never another one.
Never another one. Just Charla, if you're listening, and I know you are. Call me, girl. You know what's up.
All right. Well, we'll go over all the stuff that makes him possibly not guilty, but there's problems with the investigation. Of course, just because there's problems with the investigation doesn't mean he didn't do it.
There's always problems with the investigation. There's problems with every investigation.
That is
or
true.
Just at least the ones we focus on.
I was going to say, it seems to be that every investigation is that way, but it's not true. Not everyone. Just the ones we look at. All right. Well, Steve Avery was charged with the murder, kidnapping, sexual assault, and mutilation of a corpse.
Not necessarily in that order.
Not in that order, right. Keep this in mind next time you catch someone masturbating in a yard.
Does that happen often, though?
I mean, it's only happened to me twice.
Yeah, okay, you've only been caught twice, but how many people?
No, I mean, I've only caught other people.
You've only caught people, okay.
God, come on, see, Derick.
I was like, I've never been caught masturbating in someone's yard, and I've only caught a couple in mine, so statistically, the odds are in my favor. Right.
So the question becomes, nobody's ever caught me, but how many times have I done it?
Exactly.
All right. So
how can you prove that they were masturbating?
What?
If you caught them, you obviously interrupted them and they didn't finish. So is that considered masturbating? Like if you didn't finish, is it considered masturbating?
What was it? The guy, someone told me that if you shake it more than twice at the urinal, it's considered
called
playing with
yourself.
Yeah.
That's what my grandfather used to tell me. You better listen to the advice of those old men. They know.
That's right. Oh, those old men. All right. Anyways, so no, this guy was a real whack job.
You wacko.
Pun intended. All right, Avery swore that he was being set up by the county so they didn't have to pay his $36 million wrongful conviction lawsuit. Of course, this did nothing to explain why her car keys were discovered in his bedroom. His defense attorneys tried to discredit this evidence against him using every trick in the book, mostly preserved for the prosecution in this show, but it did little to aid in his case. At the time of his conviction, Avery was the only person in Innocence Project history to have been convicted of a violent crime after their release. Well, if you've got to be remembered for something.
I know. I mean, it's like, do you say that in an introduction to someone? Hi, I'm Steven Avery. I'm the only person in Innocence Project history to be involved in a violent crime after they've been released, because I obviously don't appreciate all the hard work and the luck it took to get recognized in the first place.
Right. All right. Well, Avery's nephew, Brendan Dassey, confessed to helping Avery kill and dispose of the body, but later recanted, stating he'd been coerced. He refused to testify at Avery's trial and was convicted of murder, rape, and mutilation in a separate trial. Ultimately, the kidnapping and sexual assault charges against Avery were dropped, but he was sentenced to life without parole for first-degree murder and illegal possession of a firearm. He was later acquitted on the corpse mutilation charge.
Yeah, why not? I mean, just you're already being convicted of all these other things. I used to see this a lot when I was working for the Hunt County Sheriff's Department. God, I hate the fact that I keep bringing them up. It's almost like I get royalties or something every time I mention them. like I don't know, I get like a banjo or something. But
right.
It used to happen all the time. The court they're about to put a guy away for murder. And they would send a guy away on like some kind of heinous felony, and the next thing you know, there's a bench warrant comes out to go pick him up from the penitentiary and bring him back for a traffic ticket.
What?
Just how much? Oh, you think about how much you have to pay an officer. You're paying their salary. You're paying the mileage, the wear and tear on the vehicle, the clerk who had to fill out the bench warrant, the paper that it's printed on. All to go pick up somebody who is never going to get out of jail anyway because of the felony they're currently incarcerated for. Bring them back on a bench warrant. We're talking sometimes entire days worth of travel for like an existing traffic ticket that they had before their conviction. It happens every day, people. Look into it. It happens every single day in every single department. That is why our justice system, our legal system in this country is hemorrhaging money.
Right.
But I've seen it with my own eyes.
That's crazy. Well, after the Netflix documentary was released, People magazine reported that one of the jurors, who was the father of a local sheriff's deputy, and another juror's wife was a county clerk. One juror, who had been excused after deliberations, claimed the majority of the jury had voted not guilty. He was shocked that they presented a guilty verdict in court. This was disputed by other jury members, claiming that no early vote had been taken. The filmmaker claimed that another juror felt intimidated and feared for his own life unless he returned a guilty verdict. This has since been disputed as well.
But this happens all the time.
Oh yeah, jury intimidation by other jurors that's how they get actual consensus sometimes.
You think about the jurors that you interviewed for Texas Injustice.
Right.
There was similar things there. I mean, there was one woman in particular that felt like she had no choice but to deliver a guilty verdict because everybody else was leaning over her shoulder and making her feel crappy because they all wanted to go home. And
right.
this happens all the time.
That's exactly right. Over the years since his conviction, Avery's requests for appeals and retrials have been denied. But in 2015, the nephew, Dassey's conviction was overturned. Federal Judge William Duffin ruled that Dassey's confession was involuntary, but then the U.S. Court of Appeals for the Seventh Circuit overturned that ruling, insisting that Dassey remain incarcerated pending resolution of the state's appeal of the habeas decision. This is where it all gets crazy. Well, crazier. In 2017, the Seventh Circuit upheld the decision to overturn Dassey's conviction, giving the state the option to appeal to the U.S. Supreme Court, dismissing the case or having a retrial. The state petitioned the appellate court to rehear the case, and the magistrate's ruling was reversed. Dassey's confession did not violate the Constitution, and further requests for retrials were denied. He is still in prison.
So whether or not he did it or not, we said earlier that he's a little mentally challenged himself.
Right.
But, he got himself there on a confession saying that he assisted.
Right.
He helped with the kidnapped, he helped with the burning of the body, everything else, and now he's in prison and can't seem to get out.
Right.
So I can't feel sorry for the guy.
Well, if you look at, there was a lot of the coercion and threatening and stuff like that, and they played tricks with his mind. You just really got to watch Making a Murder. I'm interested to see your opinion of the case after you watch that.
Is it, from what standpoint is the show told? Is it told from the point of view of someone who is against him or for him?
Well, I would say the first one is probably pretty neutral, but they did do a second season when Catherine Zellner gets involved, and that one is definitely pro Innocence.
Okay.
So,
I'd be interested in see it. I'm just not quite sure that it's worth giving Netflix my $20 a month.
You could do your 30-day. You get a 30-day trial.
Yeah, I can make up another email address.
There you go.
And
well, in 2017, a post-conviction motion was filed claiming ineffective assistance of counsel, Brady violations, and affidavits by experts allegedly debunking the manner in which Halbach was killed. They claimed Avery's conviction was based on planted evidence and false testimony. The request was again denied without an evidentiary hearing even being conducted. Finally, in 2019, the Wisconsin Court of Appeals granted Avery's petition for a new trial. Avery's attorney wanted the victim's bone fragments to be tested for DNA, but those bones had already been returned to the Halbach family. Avery's attorney stated that it was a very sneaky way of destroying potential evidence. As of July 2021, the state of Wisconsin was still turning up their nose to Avery's requests.
Well, let's look at his track record here. Let's look at like everything he's done throughout his life. Using his criminal history as a guideline, and this is also something else that I used to do for the Hunt County Sheriff's Department. Give me my banjo. I was a classification officer there for a very long time, where I would take people's criminal histories, study their tattoos, their gang affiliation, everything, and try and find a place for them to be in the Hunt County Jail where it would be the least amount of conflict. And I look at Steven Avery's criminal history from age 18 to present day, and I'm just having a really hard time. The guy burned a cat.
Right,
okay, that's it right there. That's bottom line. The guy covered a cat in gasoline and threw it in a bonfire. You are guilty for the rest of your life to me, sir, because you hurt a kitty.
Poor kitty. Well, Catherine Zellner, his attorney's second motion was supported by a, quote, never before disclosed ledger sheet indicating that the presence of the bones was not disclosed to Avery's defense team before they were returned to the Halbach family. Zellner had 14 days to file any, quote, supplemental post-conviction motions before Avery's new court date would be set. On July 28, 2021, the Court of Appeals for the state of Wisconsin affirmed the circuit court's denial of Steven Avery's big brief filed by Zellner, pointing out many misrepresentations contained in that brief.
It's all semantics, man.
Right?
You killed a cat, Steven Avery.
On December 20th, 2015, a petition was created at a White House petitioning site titled Investigate and Pardon the Averys in Wisconsin and Punish the Corrupt Officials Who Railroaded These Innocent Men. In a January 2016 response to the petition, a White House spokesman said that since Avery and Dassey are both state prisoners, the president cannot pardon them. A pardon in this case would need to be issued by the state level by the appropriate authorities. A spokesperson for Wisconsin, Governor Scott Walker, stated that Walker would not pardon Avery. A second petition titled Initiate a Federal Investigation of the Sheriff's Offices of Manitowoc and Calumet County, Wisconsin, was submitted to the White House petitioning site on January 7, 2016. The petition was archived because it did not meet the minimum signature requirements.
And you know, here we are. This is one of these cases where we're handling it, but the guy is still incarcerated. So it's like a to be continued episode, really.
Right. Everybody's just kind of waiting to see what happens with Zellner's. She's doing this pro bono, and the second season, as I said, of Making a Murderer, she's the main focus of the whole season. Is her fight to do all of this.
Well, she's obviously a dog person.
Well, I think that there's a lot of problems with the evidence. For example, the keys that were found in the bedroom. If you look at the people, the sheriff's department that took pictures of and that's where they said, okay, these keys were found. They had pictures from the sheriff's department showing them there. But if you look at pictures that the state investigators did when they came in, the keys were not there. So, it's one of those things where it's like it really starts to paint the picture that this county is really trying to set him up. So, you just gotta, I don't know, watch it and see what you think.
Well, the guy killed a cat. Right. And I don't care what the TV show says.
Well, if he killed a cat, I don't know that deserves to be in prison for the rest of his life. It's a horrible thing to do, but that's
I don't believe I've ever killed a cat. Not on purpose.
Well,
so
I know that I have never killed a cat, but on purpose or not. So what do you mean?
You never accidentally ran over a cat?
No.
Car? Okay.
No.
I think
I ran over an owl once.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that was really weird. I was delivering pizzas for Domino's, and it was like 11 o'clock at night, and I just remember seeing something on the road, and I was like, what is that? And I ran over it, and I looked back behind me, and there was this big puff of feathers. And I went back and looked. I was like, what the hell was that? And it turned out it was an owl. I felt bad for like weeks after that. Who the hell kills an owl?
Who indeed, Scott? Who kills an owl?
Well, apparently me is who.
Well, you didn't soak him in gasoline and throw him in a bonfire.
Oh, that's true. That's true. That is true. All right. Well, any final thoughts on this episode?
I think I've made my stance perfectly clear that this guy is guilty as hell.
Mm-hmm.
And as a matter of fact, there is no hell bad enough for him. Can you tell I'm a cat person?
I can.
I love my kitty cats.
Yeah, I like I said, there's the whole reason that there was a 10 episode Netflix docuseries about this, and the reason that it went viral in the first place is because they really bring up a lot of things that just don't make sense. If you're going to have an investigation into a murder, it should be forthcoming. It should be done by the book, and it should be, all this stuff. But then when you go back and look at, it's like several people that I think that we covered, especially like, let's say Vincent Cosi, we believe that he's innocent, but we can't say 1,000% that he's innocent but we can say 1,000% he did not get a fair trial. And I think a lot of that correlates with Steven Avery's case. Is we can't say that he's innocent, we can't say that he's guilty, but there's a lot of problems with the trial and the investigation in this case.
Well, I will just have to take their word for it.
All right.
I'll remember that next time I go to a Petco.
There you go. All right. Well, until next time, everyone, make sure that you stay aware,
Stay strong,
and get involved. See you next time.
The American Justice Podcast is owned and copyrighted by Atua Productions, LLC of Dallas, Texas. Your hosts are Scott Pogensey and C. Derick Miller. Atua Productions aims for this to be an interactive podcast where you, the audience, has a great amount of influence on the content of our shows. You can interact with us in several ways. First and most preferred is you can leave us a voicemail. Our phone number is 972-942-0444. Be sure to leave your name and city you're calling from, along with whether or not we can use your voice on the air. If Facebook is more your style, you can log on to our Facebook page at facebook.com/American Justice Podcast. Feel free to leave a comment, or you can message us on Messenger if you have a more pressing question or issue. If you'd like to blog about the show, you can log on to AmericanJusticePodcast.com and let us know what you think there. If you're a tweeter, you can also voice your opinion on Twitter at @AJusticePodcast. We would very much appreciate it if you could give us a 5-star review on all the podcast streaming platforms.